I didn't come from a dog family. It was my decision. The only time I've regretted my decisions is when I listen to other people. Make your own decisions and learn what you can about structure and about movement. And if you like a style of dog, our breed, there's a lot of styles that fit within the standard. And find the style that you like.
Welcome to the Better Breeder Chronicles, brought to you by Easy Whelp Premium Whelping Boxes. Elevate your breeding program with Easy Whelp. In today's episode, we visit with Tonya Struble of Rush Hill Golden Retrievers. Located in the Seattle, Washington area, Tonya is one of the most iconic modern master breeders, not just in her breed of Golden Retrievers, but across all breeds. When discussing the greatest breeders of our generation, Tonya Struble will be one of the very first names mentioned. Rush Hill has too many accomplishments to list, ranging from the top producing stud dog in breed history to the top winning specialty male all time. National specialty winners, top 20 winners, best in show winners, and even AKC National Championship best bred by in show. The list is endless. Rush Hill's legacy of top producing stud dogs is the stuff of legends. Stud dogs that stand the test of time and produce exceptionally, regardless what direction they are bred. Over the decades, Tonya has consistently produced dogs that not only win, but then produce and positively impact her breed. Her dogs excel in many arenas beyond conformation, including the field in her quest for dual champions. Today, you would be hard-pressed to find a top-quality Golden Retriever that does not trace back to Rush Hill. Tonya has a keen eye for a dog. She understands pedigrees like a scientist and has the vision to see the next generation before it is born. She holds herself and her dogs to the highest standards. She is relentless and a perfectionist. She has endured every challenge and heartbreak a breeder can, and she has come back stronger. Rush Hill was the first Golden Retriever breeding program to earn Better Breeder certification, demonstrating the standards and ethics we promote. Those who know Tonya best describe her as an individual they strive to emulate, both as a breeder and as a person. They say her impact on them personally is as large as the impact she's had on the breed as a whole. And even some of her biggest competitors will tell you they consider her a mentor and a role model. In the sport of purebred dogs, that is truly an honor. Join me now in welcoming the master of Rush Hill, Tonya Struble. Tonya, welcome to the podcast, and I'm excited for you to share the Rush Hill story with us today. If you would, take us back to the beginning. How did you get started in purebred dogs?
Well, actually, the way I got started was my parents had gotten divorced, and I would go back and forth and see my dad in California, and my mom and stepfather lived in Alaska, and I had a horse down there. And my father sold the horse and gave me some money, $75, and told me to go buy a dog because I didn't have an animal in Alaska. And so I wanted a collie because I wanted a Lassie dog. I just love them. And my stepfather didn't like the collies, and he really wanted more of a hunting dog. And so I found a friend that had this Golden Retriever, and I had no idea what they even were, but it was a gold dog. It retrieved a ball. It did all that kinds of stuff that you would want for a kid. And I came home and I said, well, can I get a Golden Retriever? And he goes, well, that's okay. That's a hunting dog. And so that's really how I even got a Golden. And I got involved in obedience and 4-H and that type of thing just for training and that aspect of stuff. And that's really how I ended up getting involved in dogs. I didn't come from a dog family.
So Tonya, talk me through the transition of going from a owner of a Golden Retriever into a purebred dog fancier. What did that process look like for you?
Well, as I was growing up, I had that pet Golden that we got out of the newspaper that was 6 months old at the time that we got him. And I had to train him, and I got involved in obedience training and 4-H, and I had this dog that had curly hair, little white splash hair, white feet, And I would try to do conformation with him, and I'd put little Brett's on his hair and try to dry him. But I was involved with a lot of other juniors at the same time that had all these nice dogs. And so I did 4-H, but I was never thought I was good enough to go into a dog show because of what I had. So I did fun matches and learned as much as I could on my own. There was a time that I had a basset hound and it was a pretty basset hound, and I didn't have registration papers for it. So we kind of made these names up, it was blah, blah, blah. And this was its number and this was its birth date, but didn't know when its birth date was. But that one I was able to actually show in fun matches. And I did well with her, and I showed her in 4-H, and I got to meet people. And that was, even though it was not an all breed show, it was a stepping stone that was fun. And I knew a lot of kids that did 4-H that I grew up with. Drew Dowling was one of them. And it just kind of every step I took, I wanted to do one more. And so then I got another golden, and then I started showing it in all breed shows.
And this was all in Alaska, correct?
All in Alaska.
You're getting involved. You want play a larger part in this breed that you love. Tell us about your early mentors, and the people that really influenced you early on to really kind of take the deep dive into the Golden Retriever breed.
My biggest mentors were not Golden Retriever people. They were other breeders. One of them was Fred and Dodie Froelich, and they had the Vimilka elk hounds up there. Another one that has been extremely successful is Bobby Brandt with her Basset hounds. And I learned about front quarters having the Basset hounds. I grew up with, the Dowlings had their great dogs, and they appreciated the side gait and the movement. So that's where you got some more of the movement in there. And there was another gal, Kay Mastakis, that had Malamutes. So most of my people were Gene Johnson, who had Irish setters, who's down here. There were some Siberian people, but really Bobby Brandt and those few, the Frolics, they were the ones where I really learned about structure and movement and handling and what to do and things like that. So I learned more from people outside of my breed than I did within my breed.
Were there any earlier pivotal experiences that, looking back, you realized that kind of set you on the path to success?
I would say that for me, everything that I did, what I wanted to do, what I learned to do really young is make my own decision. And make my own decision on my breedings, whether it's right or it's wrong. It's my right, it's my wrong. And people in the beginning tried to talk me into doing things, and I would take their opinion. And in my back of my mind, there was other things I wanted to do, but I did what they wanted me to do. And it was never necessarily the right decision. And so from one of my very first breedings I did that was nice, and I kept the wrong dog. And I knew from that point on, I wasn't going to let anybody convince me or talk me into taking something that I didn't want. I needed to make my own decision. And if it was right, it was right. If it was wrong, it was wrong. But it was my right and my wrong.
I've got a couple breeder friends in mind right now that I want to take that clip and send to. That's terrific.
It was my decision, and the only time I've regretted my decisions is when I listen to other people. That's why I don't do puppy parties. I don't do any of that. I don't want your opinion. I want my opinion. And then I'll keep it same with breeding to stud dogs. It's the same thing. And I see people trying to make other people do what they want in their eyes. Well, everybody's got their own opinion, and let it be your own decision.
Starting with the most influential breeders and the dogs behind your own, how did you create the Rush Hill family of Golden Retrievers?
The first few Goldens that I got, I loved them. But the first ones I got, in Alaska, the pool is very small. And I would always go reserve or go third or go fourth, but I could never get any points on the ones I got from the original breeder. And I took one of those dogs and I came down to Washington on the Big Eastern Washington circuit, and I fell in love with a dog by the name of Tri-Valley's Doc Holliday. He was a class dog, wasn't finished. I loved him. And at that point, I asked Carol Kwame for a puppy out of him. And that was my Rush Hills, or my Rebel dog, who is my foundation. Alderbrook's Rush Hill Rebel. I brought him home. I named him Rebel because I knew he would cause some problems because I went outside of the box. I went and because of what I had, I couldn't win enough. So I made a decision to go somewhere else and pick my own dog that I wanted. And it was a combination between half Beckwith and half Gold Rush, or I should say not, Gold Rush, Goldwing. But basically, he was an outcross. So he had some of the stuff that had been doing really well at the time, but he also had some of the old pedigrees that were very common at the time also. And that particular dog, when I went to Canada at 9 months of age, I got my very first point, which was all the way to best in show. And that, I would say, probably of anything, would have been a point that would be pivotal. I mean, that was something that you get your first point, and you go all the way to best in show. I mean, I was even surprised he got the breed because he was a puppy, like.
And that had to be just a tremendous affirmation. You had gone out on your own, you had made your own decisions, you had made your own selections, and then to realize that level of success immediately.
All right. And it was a small show. Don't get me wrong. It was not huge. But in that whole weekend, I also learned, don't ever count your chickens. Don't ever count on anything. Because Larry House, who gave him the best in show, the next day he won the group. And the third day Larry was doing the breed, and everybody's going to go, oh, you're going to finish him. You're going to finish him. And you think you're going to finish him. And I went reserve winner's dog. And then he proceeded to rip him apart in the ring. So very quickly I learned, even though you go best in show one night, never count your chickens before they hatch.
Stay humble. It's a brutal sport.
It's a brutal sport. And Honey Glendenning, that's where I met her. She was on that slate. And that was one of her first judging assignments. So I've known her since then. And she was one that gave him the group. And then he went on to go best in show with Larry House. And he's like, oh, and he's best puppy too. It was just a very humbling experience.
Any other influential breeders or families of dogs that you look to that were really pivotal or integral into the development of Rush Hill?
I would have to say that I really like the Gold Rush dogs. A lot of people don't like them. I mean, they're now, that was a breed that was in the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s and stuff. True Bear, Goldwing's True Bear was a dog I loved. When I got to see him as a veteran, I thought he was beautiful. He had a ton of friend assembly. I mean, I just love the style. And that really, truly is the style of dog that I like. Nice dog, red dog, big fronts on them. And that's what my stamp is. So Goldwing's True Bear was probably really what I would say the dog that everything I have is truly based on.
So with that foundational dog, what breeding strategies did you put into play to establish your bloodline?
I'll go back to making your own decision. Like I saw a picture of a dog that was 18 months in a magazine. And because living in Alaska, we didn't have that ability to just take off and go. I mean, at that point, you only had, you just didn't have the ability. So there was a dog that I saw that was by the name of Champion Tangeloff's Odds on Peblin. And that his call name was Derby. I saw a picture of him because I do go to the nationals every year. That was about some of the few times I could get out. And our national was back in the East Coast, and I wanted to see him so badly. And the friend that I was with, she had all these other dogs in mind that I was going to breed to. And we went to some of these other houses, and I'm like, all right, And then that was the night that we were in a Pinto with Rebel in the back seat. You have two people in a Pinto, a 500 crate, and this big golden retriever in the back seat. And this one gal told us, she said, oh, it's not a problem. You'll find a place to stay. There's plenty of hotels. We're in Providence, Rhode Island in the fall, right? So we're driving and we're at Providence. There are no hotels to stay in. So we pulled this Pinto in the back of the Holiday Inn next to a air conditioning unit trying to sleep because we had nowhere to sleep. And after a couple hours, it's like, well, this isn't going to work. So we head to Marston Mills and we pull into the parking lot of the dog show where I was hoping to see Derby, this dog that I wanted to breed to. And so we must have looked like hell because we'd slept in the car overnight. And we pull out of the Pinto, and go watch the dog show. And I saw Derby and absolutely fell in love with him. And that is where my Red Shields Haagen-Dazs came from. So he actually is the true foundation of everything that I've done. But the lead up to him was Rebel.
Fellow breeders, see what your breeding program has been missing with Easy Whelp modular whelping boxes. From the durable Easy Classic design to the spacious Easy Classic Tall, Easy Whelp sets a new standard for premium design and performance. Their innovative models are developed for simple setup and maximum safety, with features like integrated safety rails to protect your next generation. The smooth, hygienic surface allows for quick wipe downs to maintain a sanitary environment. The new windowed wall option provides the next level of safety, confidence, and convenience. No tools are required for assembly, which comes in handy if time is short in those critical moments. Elevate your breeding program today. Visit easywhelp.com. So I do want to talk about some of those individual dogs here shortly, but more from, a breeding theory standpoint. As the generations went by, I would assume that you were, line breeding, on those foundational dogs. Were you looking for a certain type of bitch to breed to them, or were you, I know your stud dogs are quite notorious for being extremely dominant. Were you looking for outcross bitches? How did you kind of weave that tapestry to develop that your breeding program?
I started with a couple of outcross bitches, and then I leased a line bred bitch. So I had some line breeding, and I had a little bit of outcrossing also. But I mostly in the beginning pulled in with True Bear and some of that, like maybe a grandfather, granddaughter, things like that, but no inbreeding. I haven't done the inbreeding portion. My problem is my dogs can outcross really well, but I have a hard time getting a bitch to breed to them that's outcrossed. That's where I'm really struggling right now. So
Okay.
basically, most of my stuff is closer to line breeding. I did do some outcrossing with my line bred bitches and then try to bring it in. So it's not as outcrossed as I would like it to be.
Tonya, share with us, if you would, a look inside your mind as you're looking at a new litter of puppies, whether that be a line bred litter, an outcross litter. What are the processes you go through, and what are you looking for as you make your decisions for the individual dogs or puppies that you want to move forward with in your program?
When I breed a litter, first I try to decide in my mind what I'm looking for. Am I looking for a male out of that litter or a female? I'm a dog person. I love the boys. I mean, when I had 5 dogs out there and I could go to the river and 4 of them were best in show dogs, there was nothing that made me more proud than that. I mean, and they're all beautiful and they all look alike. So I tend to lean towards the males versus the females. So I'm more forgiving on a female than I am a male. But for the most part, I look at a litter and it's got to be perfect. It's got to have 4 chests. It's got to have a front assembly. It's got to have the look that looks like it belongs here. I've strayed from that a little bit because I've had to do some outcrossing and some different stuff. But what I really like is a dog that it's got the stamp, and so the puppies have to have it when they're young. They don't have to have a lot of hair, but they have to have the structure there. And you can't go, "Oh, I wish we had a little bit of this. Oh, I wish it was a little bit that." You got to really look at it and go, it's when it stands there on the table, it doesn't move. It knows how to stand there. It doesn't fight you. It doesn't fuss with you. Those are the ones I like. The ones that you have to like keep putting their feet here and there. Those are the ones that they're not sound within themselves to handle it. I also think that, if there's something I really like, I keep it. It doesn't place it with someone else, it's never going to do what you're going to do when you have it yourself. So if you're willing to let it go to some other home, you have to be willing to let it go permanently. And that's another thing that I hang on to a little bit more because I want to be able to do what I want to do with them and not have somebody else's. There's very few people you can co-own with and have them do exactly what you want to do and make the dog's full potential. Is that better? That's probably the better way of putting it.
I couldn't agree more on both those points. Both that When something leaves your property, it's probably never going to look as good as it would if it was your place. But then also, if you let something go from your property, you also have to be willing to let it go if worst, case situations happen. You've let them go and you can't hold on too tightly at that point. Do you find your selection process varies a little bit with an outcross litter when maybe you're looking for something specific than something that's line bred on your own dogs?
I think it does because the look is different. You're having to look at the puppies differently because of the characteristics. Like I've done a couple of outcrossing that have done really well, and the male has worked really well with the bitches, and that's a little bit better. But like in those dogs, some were a little bit harder moving. They weren't as light on their feet. It was it was differences that you're not used to looking at. So it makes it a little harder. But I also, if I outcross, most of the time I'm going to keep a bitch too. I'm a little more forgiving of them than I am of the boys because I can always breed them back to the boys, and that's what I'm looking at.
In a program that values performance in multiple rings, obviously form following function is critical. How has that concept guided your breeding program?
Well, I like a versatile dog. I mean, I like a dog that you can go out and do other things with. And I don't just show my dogs, I do lots of other activities with them. I try to do the field stuff with them. I do barn hunt with them. I like to train dogs as well as just have a dog going in left-handed circles.
Tonya, if you would, describe for our audience what a Rush Hill Golden Retriever looks like.
For me, a Rush Hill Golden Retriever is a darker dog that has a lot of front assembly. They're beautiful on the side when they move. Their headpieces are, there can be a little bit of variety in their head because we're not a head breed. But I like a dog that's about 80 pounds and is substantial. I mean, it can carry a duck, it can carry a bird in the mouth when it moves, and it's got some muscle and some power to it. I want my boys to look like boys and to stand out. I don't want them to be the same size as a girl. That's where I go for the differences. But basically, they're a dog that my boys put a stamp on everything. And when I have judges say all over the place that they can see my dogs anywhere, and there have been some judges out there that will put up a dog eventually, Haagen-Dazs eventually, and then pretty soon you see that they put them up, all different stuff up all over the United States, all related with the same look. But it's very much they're a darker dog. They're they're a bigger dog. Usually, like mine in general, are like 78 to 80 pounds, and they're about 23 and a half to 24 inches tall.
You've mentioned the boys several times, and that's what you're drawn to. Do you find that the quality in your breed is with the males more than the bitches?
I just love the boys. I mean, it's like I can tell someone that wants a pet, if if I had one golden retriever, I'd have a male. I want all the hair. I just like their beauty, and they're not bitches. They're not, they want to do stuff for you. You don't have hormones to deal with. And I think that's the big thing is I like training them and I don't like to deal with the hormones. Now, if Mark had one dog, he'd have a bitch. I like the girls and I like the boys. The girls sleep on the bed, the boys are too hot and they sleep on the floor. But if I had one golden retriever, I would have a dark dog with that looks very similar to most of them on my wall.
So it really is kind of your affinity towards the characteristics of the male
Yeah.
rather than them being superior specimens to the bitches.
Yes.
So I'd like to learn a little bit more about your most notable dogs and kind of what made them so special and their impact on the breed. Um, let's start with champion Rush Hill's Haagen-Dazs.
Well, Haagen-Dazs was a dog that really did break a color barrier. We moved down here because from Alaska to Washington because of him and when he was young. And he finished very quickly. And then as I grew up, that was at a time, but everything was very blonde. And he was always usually one of the only darker dogs out there. And it was really hard. I mean, I took my lumps And I kept going to the shows and working him. He was beautiful on the side. He had a nice front assembly on him, and he held up in longevity as far as his structure goes. I mean, at 11 years of age, he was still winning specialties. So Haagen-Dazs has been actually he's the top producing sire in our breed. He's got over 170 champions, and I think he's got about 5 best in show dogs and 11 specialty winners. So he he produced very well at the time. That was also when we were breaking through that color barrier. And that was really in the days when there wasn't a lot of frozen semen and stuff. And that was when he had 121 champions when he was still alive.
You mentioned the color barrier, but Kirby's impact on the breed went even beyond color. Can you speak to, what that legacy was he left on the breed?
He put a lot of front assemblies on dogs. And that was a big stamp that he had. A lot of forechest. In the front assembly, you're talking not only the return of upper arm, but the layback, as well as the forechest. There's so many different parts to that. He was great on his legs, as far as big on the side gate, a good top line on him, and he held it all when he moved. And he very much produced that with his puppies.
One thing I noticed in looking at Kirby in his pedigree is he truly is the result of the Lloyd bracket formula, which states, let the sire's sire become the dam's grandsire on the maternal side. And that is exactly what his pedigree is. Was that intentional, or is that just the way the dogs lined up?
I did a lot of grandfather, granddaughters. I've done that combination a lot. I'm not really big on the aunt nephew stuff. I haven't gotten really close like that. I haven't done that much, but I have done a lot of grandfather, granddaughters and vice versa. So yes, it was because the bitch that I took to Derby was a true bear granddaughter. And so I took that to Tangalof's odds on Pibwin, which was a true bear son. So I doubled up on true bear in that, and that was Haagen-Dazs.
All right, next dog I'm interested in hearing about is Grand Champion Rush Hill's Run Amuck at Abelard. Chaos, I think, was his call name. Pretty impressive show record. Tell us a little bit about Chaos.
Chaos was he was a very different dog than Curb. He was a little more outcrossed. Both his mother and his sire were outcrossed, but 2 of their lines were line bred on my stuff. So I pulled in 2 different lines with Chaos. He was like an 80-pound dog, beautiful on the side, had a beautiful front assembly on him, dead level top line, nice tail carriage, and he had a charisma about him. He never, ever stopped. I mean, you would take him in the ring. You could count on Chaos working for you 100% of the time. If he didn't give you 100%, then he truly wasn't feeling well, or it was hot, or whatever. But he usually gave you 100%, and he never quit. He was always on the go. Not active, but he was a show dog. He was a true show dog.
His show record is pretty remarkable. My research showed multiple national specialty best of breed winner, multiple national specialty best op, all breed best in shows. What made him so dominant in the specialty ring?
The way he showed and carried himself. I mean, he was built really well, but his carriage and his charisma is what carried him through. Not only him, he won 2 nationals. He went opposite at 3 nationals, 2 of them to his daughters. And so there was an era that all these dogs that did so wonderful, he had so many great kids out there, and they all carried his characteristics. There was Tara Had Freedom, there was Willis, there was so many of them at that time. There was one national that we showed at that literally every win was one of his kids. And in our hearts, we called it the Utter Chaos National. I mean, because literally everything was out of him. But that was the biggest thing is he never quit. He just had that charisma about him, and he'd free bait and his tail would be wagging back and forth just like his kids do, and he just never quit.
My fellow breeders, I'm excited to announce the Better Breeders Certification Program. This program recognizes purebred dog breeders dedicated to the preservation and advancement of their breed. The Better Breeder Institute certifies purposeful conservation breeders who produce healthy, beautiful, and predictable puppies, and who raise the bar with their ethics and breeding practices. Conservation dog breeders have long struggled to differentiate themselves from the backyard, for-profit, and commercial breeders in the minds of the general public. This is the only breeder certification program developed to help purebred puppy shoppers identify better breeders. This program directly supports breed health research and promotes the breeding of dogs that fulfill their breed standard. This is the first breeder merit program that truly supports efforts to breed a better dog. Learn more at betterbreeder.org. Another dog with quite a record was Grand Champion Rush Hill's River Road Payoff, Vegas. Tell us a little bit about him.
Vegas was a chaos son, and he was a case where, as a young dog, I took him out. I was going to take him to the national, and I took him to a dog show. Like, ooh, he's moving in two pieces, and so we put him back home, and he didn't go to the national. And that was in the 9 to 12 class because he grew so fast. A lot of Chaos's kids got their height really fast, and I put him away, and at 18 months, he won his first group. Jane Forsythe found him, and she always would say, "I found that dog." He went on to be number one golden that year. And in 2010, he was the number one golden in the country. And he was a lot of fun. He was just a lot of fun. That was where I started to have a blonde dog. That was the first blonde dog that I ever campaigned.
And I believe he was also your Eukanuba Best Bred by Best in Show, correct?
Yes. Yes, he was. And then the following year, he was, when Eukanuba, before it retransferred, he was in that parade of the World Parade that they have out there, where all those top dogs from all over the world came out, and he was there for the U.S. at that point in time.
Tonya, are there any other notable Rush Hill dogs that you'd like to make special mention of?
I guess there would be two. I mean, one of my heart dogs was Willis, and that was Rush Hill's Dramageddon. And he had gone opposite to his sister at one of the nationals, and he had gone opposite at two, one of them. And then there was a McClain, who was Rush Hill's sequel to Golden Hills, and he actually won a national specialty also. Both of those dogs had won multiple Best in Shows, and those were two. McClain was a Willis son, and then Willis was Chaos's son.
Tonya, looking back, what do you feel was the biggest challenge or setback that you faced in your breeding program?
Well, I mean, cancer is always a hit. I mean, cancer is the biggest thing in the breed, and it's unfortunate because I have lost dogs young, and I've had dogs that have lived older. So that being said, that's always what's in the back of your mind. That's why I've tried to do some more outcrossing, and even that's not working as far as doing that. Pigmentary uveitis has been a big problem in our breed, and it's everywhere. I have had my pigmentary uveitis, and those are dogs that I've tried really hard to eliminate it out of the program. And that's where I do an eye clinic at the house every year. Pet people can come, anybody can come that has dogs from me, and I have their eyes, help have their eyes checked. That's one thing that even the ophthalmologist says, we've really done. He's seen, I might get one, where before it would be more. So that's one thing that I have done really good about trying to eliminate it. It did eliminate some dogs. That's one of the reasons I didn't breed Vegas, is because I was worried that he would come up with it because his mother was. So that was kind of a setback, because he was a dog that I never was able to breed. And then I did lose Willis young, and he was 9.5, and I've still got Frozen, and I would breed to him still. But the cancer is a big thing in our breed also. Orthopedics have been fantastic. It's just those two things. And the eye issue is not the issue it was for me, but I still have to deal with the cancer. That's why I've tried to do some more outcrossing, but I can't get it to work. And that's very frustrating.
Tonya, you've also been very successful in two other breeds, PBGVs and Bernese Mountain Dogs. Maybe start with the Berners. Tell us a little bit about your story in that breed.
Well, the story in the burner is I had a friend of mine that said, "Oh, you need a burner." And I said, "I need a burner like I need a hole in the head." And so she comes down with this burner puppy and plops this burner puppy down. And she goes, "Well," I said, "if you're giving me a dog, you're taking this one." So I sent her a female if if I was going to feed this. And it was fun. I mean, I enjoyed the burner, but I didn't really want to get crazy into it. I think it's very difficult to do two breeds and to do two breeds correctly. The golden bitch that I did end up, I lost her at 6. The burner bitch I lost at 6.5 in whelp to frozen semen of lymphoma. And that's when I'm like, no more. It wasn't, I got enough, there's enough problems in our Goldens. I just didn't want to do it in burners also. And that was the end of the Bernies for me. The golden retriever bitch came back and she ended up going winner's bitch at the national. So I got her and Tony actually ended up being one of my nicest bitches that I've ever produced.
Tonya, you've had some success with the PBGVs. Tell us about them.
Oh, they're a fun breed. They are just a fun breed. They love life. They are my 3 little house dogs that I have. And while I have followed the PBGVs forever, I mean, when they came over to the US and I've watched them and I love their side gait, which of course I love it in the Goldens and their personalities, they just love life. And that's really they're a fun breed. It's still a breed I really want to know, but I don't want to get super in depth. I've been very lucky that I've gotten 3 really nice dogs, one from Gavin in Europe or in England, and then the bitch I got from Janice, and I have their daughter that went winner's bitch at the national this year. But it's truly they're a fun breed. They just love life. They just love life.
I want to switch gears here a little bit, talk about a different topic. What do you do for the education of your new puppy buyers and your support of them?
I'm always here. Anything that they want, they can call me any time of night or day, and I'll be there to help them. If they want to get involved in any type of sporting thing, I'm happy to help them with anything that they want to do. If whether it's good or it's bad or it's indifferent, I'm more than happy to help in any aspect.
What ideas do you have for how breeders can do a better job of introducing new people to the sport of purebred dogs?
Well, I guess we have to be all more approachable, and I do think at a dog show, it's hard. It's like when you're focusing on what you're trying to do, it's hard to step out into a different gear. And I mean, I have a lot of people tell me that they don't think I'm approachable, but it's not meant to be that way. It's like you start focusing and you concentrate on what you're doing. And so I try to be, but I have had people say that a lot. And I suppose that's what we need to do, but it's hard sometimes. And I also think that it's hard sometimes.
It certainly is hard. I mean, if we're talking about, at a show where, we've invested so much time, so much effort, lost sleep, spent a ton of money to get there, and, our success is predicated on us putting our best foot forward. Someone walking up to you at the wrong time when you are completely focused on a competitive endeavor, it's hard to kind of shift gears and realize that you are an ambassador for your breed, and supporting those people really is necessary if we're going to continue to bring new people into our sport, into our breeds.
Yeah, I think the sport has changed a lot though. In yeah, over the years. I mean, that's the hard part.
Current breeders are having to deal with several new challenges, including just being so many fewer breeders, contracting gene pools, the loss of major bloodlines in many breeds. Do you have any ideas or theories for how today's breeders can successfully preserve and advance their breeds in light of these current challenges?
I think that it's really hard because the internet has done not all the best good for us. I mean, you have people that can put on these glamorous websites that are puppy mills, and you don't find out about it until later. So it makes people that are breeding very cautious on what they're doing. It came from a time in the 80s or 90s where everybody got together and you actually talked about dogs and you discussed dogs. And now today it's all a bunch of clicks. It's all you do your own thing, and it's like, you just it's the whole sport has changed in general, that it makes it very hard, and there's a trust factor, I mean,
At this point in your breeding career, what do you view as the most significant challenge, either in your breed or in the sport as a whole?
what see I see a lot of people that are really good breeders that just stick to themselves, like I do. There's a lot of us that stick to ourselves, and then you see a lot of people out there that are mentoring or that are hearing to be mentors or doing stuff, and they know absolutely nothing. And it's a little mind-boggling to me, the people that what they say and what they do, and you can't fix that. There are not the mentors out there that we had. I just I just don't think that they're there anymore. I mean, or they're done and they're tired of whether you give everything you have to somebody and then then they go in a different direction or they do else with it. And so you've given your heart and your soul out to people. And then I don't want to say take the advice because that's not really what I'm saying, but it's like that I see a lot of people that are mentoring people that really don't even know what they're talking about. And then so you have the second layer of mentors that the people think they know what a front assembly is, but they have no idea because they've never felt it. They just think they know what it is. And I guess that's where I'm saying I don't think we even really have good mentors. I don't mind anybody coming here and I'll talk dogs and I'll talk about structure and movement, but I see people under people and they don't even have an idea. I had a guy approach me and say, "What do you think of my female?" And I'm like, I he goes, he's asking everybody what everybody out there what he thinks. And I said, "You're going to ask 10 people and get 10 answers. And no, I'm not going to tell you what I think." I said, "If you want to know about your bitch's issues, you need to go back to her breeder and talk to the breeder. She's the one who's going to tell you what's going to change and what's not going to change. Not all these 10 people out here that don't know the line." And I think that they're all telling him one thing, but really at the end of the day, the only people he should be listening to is either his handler who knows the line or his breeder. Not ask me. And I guess that's what I'm saying is that there are so many chiefs out there that are that people that they really shouldn't they haven't gone through the hoops yet. They haven't gone through the years in the hoops, and they've gone through the stuff that we've gone through.
Elevate your breeding program with Easy Whelp Solutions. Easy Whelp's innovative modular whelping boxes set a new standard for premium design and performance. Their washable, eco-friendly pads are more absorbent than the competition, keeping your whelping area clean and hygienic. And Easy Whelp Heat Combo ensures your puppies stay warm and healthy. Easy Whelp also carries a full line of whelping products, including box liners, feeding stations, whelping bundles, and video monitoring systems. Raise the bar in your breeding program. Visit easywhelp.com today. What do you believe your fellow breeders should be most focused on right now?
I think there's a lot of people that really need to go back and learn about structure and learn what is right and learn about good feelings and or what feels good and know what an upper arm is and know what a layback is and be honest with themselves and try to go that way. If you can't be honest with yourselves because you don't know, then you're not going to get any better.
Tonya, when you think back over your breeding career, what do you feel the most proud of?
I'm proud of all my dogs. I'm just proud of what they've done and the stamp that they've made on the breed. It's even the times have changed. Like Haagen-Dazs was at one time the top winning sire in the history of the breed, and he held that spot for a long time. And he did that when our specialties were 200. or over 100. And they were two judges to the breed. Now you can go to on a weekend of shows and there's 6 specialties and there's 50. I mean, a regular all breed show is 80. So the times have really changed drastically on how it is. And so that's been bypassed and that's fine. But that's the whole sport is dropping down in general. I mean, when you go from a breed that has an average specialty is over 100 to now you're lucky if you get 100. That's a huge difference. I mean, our average dogs, I think, I think around here we get 65 if we're lucky for a specialty. And we only have on the West Coast like 5.
Tonya, to that aspiring breeder who's listening to the Rush Hill story today, if there was one thing you'd hope they'd take away from your story that could help them in their own journey, what would it be?
I would have to say it's make your own decisions and learn what you can about structure and about movement. And if you like a style of dog, our breed, there's a lot of styles. There's a lot of styles that fit within the standard, and find the style that you like. You have to make your own decision on how you're going to breed or what you're going to do. I mean, you've got those people out there that they want a very, very, very low coefficient. And then you've got those people that, I mean, my coefficients can be a little higher. I'm not going to I'm not going to say that they're not, but I've also tried to outcross and it doesn't always work the way I want. My boys can outcross, my girls can't outcross. So that's where I'm having complications. Is that I can get the boys to outcross to girls. That's why I'm trying to find a girl that I can breed to the boys. You have to know, I think, what your dogs are going to produce. And then when you go to outcross or do something, you have to know that what those are going to produce. If you're going to outcross to a line bred dog, not necessarily outcross to an outcross dog. You know, I've even tried to get a dog from Europe and they won't sell me one. So, because they don't think it will work here. And so, it's not that I haven't tried. It's, I've tried for years. So it's hard because I have a stamp that I like and I want to keep the stamp. So that's where it makes it a little more difficult.
Tonya, when your breeding days are done, what do you think the legacy of Rush Hill is going to be?
I think that at the end of the day, people are always going to remember Kirby and Chaos. And I think that Kirby showed me a lot of showing dogs and how it is to believe in something, and I made it through. I learned to believe in him and to believe in what we could do, and I achieved what we could do. Chaos came at a different era where the internet was involved. And so he showed me the world. And that's where I always say that is where Curb showed me what it was like to be in the dog show world because he did so many great things. Yet Chaos really probably at the end of the day produced just as well as Curb did and with just as much quality as the same. It's like he had like 12, 13 best in show kids. I mean, he produced phenomenal, especially in the specialty world, at our nationals and stuff. But for me, it's going to be that they're gonna remember that look. It's not going to be a blonde dog. It's going to be a darker dog, and it's going to be a bigger dog. And whether you like it or not, that's just what it's going to be. And that's what I get. They want a dark dog. They come to me.
Tonya, at the end of every episode, for those viewers who want to learn more about our guests and their dogs, I always ask if they have a website. In your case, I already know the answer to that. You have a beautiful website. It's built on our Better Breeder Institute's ultimate platform. It can be found at rushhill.com. I would highly recommend that our audience checks it out to see what your dogs have looked like over the years. We've talked about a couple of the most notable ones, but there have been so many more. They look like family. You can see your fingerprints all over them. And I just think it's just such a great education, for aspiring breeders in any breed to kind of look at what you've done to see a job really well done. What does it mean to you to finally have that website that captures your history and tells the story of your dogs?
Well, I have to say I've had several people try to put a website together for me, and it because of all the years of all the years of history, and I didn't want a website that was about selling dogs. That's really was not my point. I wanted a website that would be about a history so that when I'm not, that's what's left and it's there on the internet. And I wanted people to be able to go back and see from where we started to where we went and to see litter mates and see everybody. So I've tried really hard to make every single dog that I've produced, it's a champion on that website. And as well as those that are dual champions. And we've got a dog working on his Auch right now and the Mocks. And not only are they beautiful, but they're versatile. And that's really where what I wanted, and that's what I got. I'm so proud of it, and I hear so many nice compliments, and it was a lot of work to put together, but it is everything I could have asked for. Everything. I love it.
I can tell you it's one of my favorite websites to go look at, and just, you can just you can feel, you get to observe the legacy of Rush Hill. Well, Tonya, thank you for sharing the Rush Hill story with us today. Genuinely appreciate it. We have some tremendous guests on this show. I put your name at the top of those lists of the master breeders of our time, and it's been an honor to spend this time with you.
Thank you.
That's it for this chapter of the Better Breeder Chronicles. We hope you found the Rush Hill story with Tonya Struble captivating, and that it will inspire you to pursue your highest goals in your breeding program. Make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. At the Better Breeder Institute, we encourage all conservation dog breeders to embrace your fellow breeders as partners and collaborators rather than competitors and rivals. With the unprecedented challenges we all face today, successful breeding programs can no longer operate on an island. Our purebred dog breeder community must come together with everyone pulling in the same direction. This is crucial if we're going to successfully preserve and advance our beloved breeds. I'm Matt Stelter, closing the book for today. Best wishes to you and your breeding program from all of us at the Better Breeder Institute. We'll see you in the next chapter. Take care.